to Israel, I went to yeshiva, I spent many years studying, I studied exactly this question, I looked at the Talmud, I looked at the sources. And what I discovered is that Judaism does have a very clear answer to the question. Very clear. There's only one problem. It's a very difficult answer to accept. I'm going to give you two answers tonight, actually. I'm going to give you two Jewish approaches as to why bad things happen to us, and I'm pretty sure you won't like either of my answers. But the reality is, Judaism has answers. Let's look what Judaism says. There's an A and a B. Let's look at the A. When we're stuck with the question, why do bad things happen to us? The first thing Judaism wants to tell us is this. Why do bad things happen to us? Ready? We don't really know. We don't really understand God as much as we'd like to. And that is the truth. We would love to understand everything about God. I would love to look at every time I've had pain in life and wish that I could say, oh, I know why God did that. It makes perfect sense. But I know that I can't. I spend a lot of my time traveling and giving lectures to audiences, and I do a lot of open question and answer sessions. So I guarantee you, anytime I meet any audience of Jews, and I say, anybody have any general questions? There's always one question that comes up. What do you think it is?
Why?
The Holocaust. Rabbi, explain the Holocaust. My answer is, I don't know. So I'm willing to say that I understand that me, with my little brain, with my little perspective on life, I'm just not able to understand everything about the mind of this infinite being that created the entire universe. So it's not an easy answer. We'd love to understand, but I think it's a much more true answer. In other words, the difference between what I'm saying and what Rabbi Kushner is saying is that Rabbi Kushner is looking at problems in the world. He's saying, I don't understand them. And his conclusion is, since I don't understand what's going on, he says, my conclusion is, God is limited. I look at those same problems in the world, and I say, it's not that God is limited. We're limited. We don't understand God. Does that make sense as an answer? Again, it's not comfortable, but it's a much more true understanding of what God is. Why should, I would say even more so, why should we expect that we are going to understand everything about God? I think it's very presumptuous to assume that if I think about it enough, I'll understand everything about God. Why would I assume that to be true? As much as I'd love it to be true, why would I assume it to be true? The whole story of Job, Eov, in Tanakh, is a man who was very righteous, deserved only good, only did good with his life, a very religious, holy, generous person, and all of a sudden, tremendous suffering comes along. He loses his cattle, his children die, he loses all of his wealth, and while it's happening the whole time, he's saying, it's all from God, it's all for the best, it's okay, it's what God wants. But then he gets personally very ill. He's suffering tremendous pain from his illness. He's crying out in pain all day. And at that point, he can't take it. He says, God, I don't understand. Why are you doing this to me? What did I do wrong? Why do I deserve this? What? This makes no sense. And the whole book of Job is the story of his 3 friends coming to him and trying to make him feel better. So friend number 1 comes along and says, you know, Job, you know why it's happening to you? It must be in the horoscopes. It must be in the constellations. You were born under a bad star. That's the way life is meant to be. So Job says to him, what are you talking about? God runs the world, not stars. Stars don't control my life. God runs the world. That's not an answer. His second friend comes along. The second friend says, you know, Job, God wouldn't do it to you if you didn't deserve it. You must have done something really bad. Job says, I didn't. So his friend says, come on, okay, you don't want to tell me. You must have done something really bad. Job says, you're not helping me. That's not what's going on here. His third friend comes along and says, well, you know, God's not really in charge. He's kind of busy doing other things right now. He doesn't take care of the little people. So Job says, come on, that doesn't help me either. Get out of here. He chases his 3 friends away. He spends days just thinking, God, why? And at the end of the book, it's a shocking punchline. At the end of the book, God comes down to Job and says, Job, I just can't explain it to you. I just can't explain it to you. There's a plan, there's a purpose. You're not going to get it. You have to accept your human limitations. That's how the book ends. So like I say, intellectually, that answer makes sense to me. I understand why that's true. I didn't find it that comforting. I found it difficult. But then I had an experience with one of my kids that really taught me a new dimension of this answer. We're going to get to the second answer in a couple minutes, but let me just share what happened to me. I had, my daughter was 4 years old. Her name is Esty. My daughter Esty was 4 years old. And my wife tells me in the morning, she says, you know, Esty really needs to get vaccination. And my wife says, Moshe, I hate taking the kids to the doctor to get needles. Do me a favor, take Esty out of school, take her to the doctor, she needs the vaccination. No problem. Go to Esty, take her to school, we walk to the doctor's office. So Esty asks me, she says, Abba, why are you taking me to the doctor? I'm not sick. I said, you're right, you're not sick. But sometimes even when you're not sick, you need to get medicine anyway. It's called a vaccination, you'll take it, it'll stop you from getting sick. So she's 4 years old and she says, but I'm not sick. I said, okay, I know you don't understand it, trust me, you'll be okay, you have to go to the doctor. We get to the doctor's office, we're sitting in the waiting room, and I turn to my daughter and I say, you know, Esty, when the doctor gives you the medicine, he's going to give it to you in a funny kind of way. It's not a pill. He's going to put the medicine inside your arm. So Esty says, wow, inside my arm? I said, well, it's going to hurt a little bit, you might cry a little bit, but you'll be okay. Everyone gets vaccination, it's good for you, he's a good doctor, it's very important, I'm very proud of you, you'll be fine, no problem. We get our turn, we get to the doctor's office. It's this old Russian man, must be 80 years old, not in the best mood, he's kind of grouchy. He says, put your daughter on her lap, roll up her sleeve, I'm going to get the medicine ready. So I put Esty in my lap, I roll up her sleeve, he takes the cotton, does the swipe. My daughter's sitting there, everything is cool. The doctor goes over here to this side, getting the medicine ready, turns around, stands in front of me and my daughter, takes the cap off the needle, and my daughter goes, ah! And she jumps off my lap and runs for the door. It's like, Esty, come back, I told you, it's only going to hurt a little bit, you'll be okay, it'll be fine, don't worry, you'll be okay. She sits on my lap again, and now she's shaking. Right? She knows what's about to happen. She's sitting on my lap, the doctor approaches, he's about to put in the needle, my daughter goes, no, stop! So the doctor says, hold her still, I'm trying to give her the medicine. I hold her arms, I hold her legs, she starts fighting with us and wrestling with us. I mean, it was, you know, it's 2 grown men wrestling with a 4-year-old in the doctor's chair. We moved over onto the bed. I lied her down, I'm trying to hold her, and she's fighting and wrestling and moving back and forth. The doctor's trying to give her the medicine, it's on and on. Finally, we get her still. The doctor gives her the medicine. My daughter is screaming and crying, and she looks at me, and the look in her eyes was, what the heck? What are you doing? What's going on here? She's crying, she's dramatic, it's hurting, the pain, you know, you can imagine. Anyway, she gets the medicine, she calms down a little bit, she's still pretty upset. We leave the doctor's office, we start walking home. So the whole way home, she's rubbing her arm, she's like, Abba, it hurts, when's it gonna stop hurting? Why did you do that? Why did I need it? I'm not sick. And I keep telling her over and over, you'll be okay, pain will go away soon, it's very good that you did it, he's a good doctor, you'll be okay, you're not gonna get sick now. Yeah, but it hurts, when's it gonna stop hurting? Back and forth and back and forth. Finally, she calms down a little bit. We're still walking. And she just starts, all of a sudden, I don't know what it was, something in her mind switched. And she just starts talking to me about, her friends are coming over this afternoon, she's having spaghetti for lunch, and she's doing painting in the afternoon. Starts talking to me about her whole day's activities. So I think to myself, it's pretty amazing. 5 minutes ago in the doctor's office, we were like enemies. And now we're walking down the street holding hands. Like everything is totally fine. She's not angry at me, she's not yelling at me, she's still talking to me. So the thought that crossed my mind was, how is it that she's able to still have a good relationship with me, even though I just did this terrible thing to her? She doesn't understand it. She doesn't know why she needed the medicine. She's still feeling the pain of it. And yet somehow she's still okay having a nice relationship with me, even though I was the one who did it to her. So what would you say? What was the reason that she still loves me, that she still relates to me, even though I did this? Anybody?
Because she believes in you.
She clearly trusts me, but why would she trust me? How does she know that being a dad means I'm a good guy? So the answer I discovered was exactly that. That she looks at me and she says, this guy is a guy I can trust. Why? Because look at all the other good things he's done for me in my life. He buys me lollipops. He buys me nice dresses for Shabbat. He tickles me before I go to bed. He tells me nice stories. We go for walks. We have a good relationship. So it's true, she doesn't understand at all why she's suffering. She doesn't know why I did it to her, and she's still feeling the pain of it. But it doesn't take away from our relationship, because she looks at me and says, this guy has a good track record. That's her feeling. So I realized myself, at that moment, I'm walking down the street with my daughter, and the thought that hit me was, what's going on right now between me and my daughter is exactly what goes on between us and God all the time. God does things to us that we don't understand. And it hurts. And we just don't get it. So how frustrating is that? How much can I handle God doing things that I don't understand and that I don't like? It depends on how I see God in every other aspect of my life. Every day I have what I have, it's a gift. The more I see it's a gift, the easier it is to let go if, for whatever divine reason, I'm not supposed to have the gift. Because those children that you have are a gift. They're ours, but they're a gift. And if we really feel like somehow God owes us children, or God owes us jobs, or God owes us health, then it's very, very painful when God takes it away. And if I'm really able to appreciate that it's a gift, again, I don't understand why the gift was taken, but it was a gift. I'm glad I had it while I had it, and I'm glad I was able to enjoy it as long as God gave it. The second answer goes like this. I'm sitting at a point in life, things are happening to me, it's bad, I don't understand it, I'm in pain. Why is God doing this to me? So Torah comes along and says the following. You want to know why bad things are happening to you? You ready? There's no such thing as bad. The word bad doesn't exist in Torah vocabulary. Nothing is ever bad. The Talmud says, Kol da'avid rachmana l'tav avid. Everything God does is good. By definition, it's good. Do things happen to us in life that are painful? For sure. Do things happen to us in life that are confusing, that we feel that are tragic, that are shocking, that are surprising, that are upsetting? Of course, that's how we feel. But if we were to take the step and say, God actually does bad things to us, what would that mean? God hates us? He's out to get us? He's trying to ruin our lives? He forgot about us? He doesn't care what happens to us? He wants us to be miserable and he's making life difficult just to see if we can handle it? Why in the world would God ever do anything bad? We go back to Kushner's definition. God is all-powerful. God is all-knowing. And God is all good. Our problem is when we feel pain, We make the jump and say, oh, it's painful? Oh, well, pain is bad. I don't want pain. And it's true, because in human terms, if I feel pain, why would I want to feel pain? If I could have a more comfortable pair of shoes, if I can turn up the temperature and make it warmer in the room, if I can have a nice glass of water, I don't want to be in pain. But if it's God giving it to me, I have to understand, God is the one who created me. He knows all. He knows what I can handle. His entire purpose in creating me is only one thing. There's only one reason He created me. He wants me to have the most deeply fulfilling experience in life possible. He wants me to have a deeply fulfilling experience in life. Sometimes, more than sometimes, usually, we need things to wake us up, to make us feel the depth of how good life can be. When we live very comfortable, easy lives, nothing upsets us, nothing gets in our way, those are the kinds of lives where spiritually we tend to go to sleep. Everything we've said until now really hinges on one idea. Everything we've said until now hinges on the idea that when I look at my challenges in life, I have to understand, what's the message to me? What's God telling me? What does He want me to get out of it? How does He want me to grow from it? What's the point of why He's giving this to me? How is this supposed to be for my good? But let's ask a different question. Let's ask the question, what about other people's suffering? How do we look at a Holocaust? How do we look at an attack in Harnof that killed 4 rabbis? How do we look at people starving to death by the hundreds of millions in Africa? Real tragedy we see on the streets, real tragedy in the newspapers. What do we say then? You're going to see a little kid who's living with a terminal illness and say, well, it's for your good, and you're going to grow from it, and it's all for the best. He's not understanding that. Somebody who's killed in a car accident, it's a little too late to say, well, he was supposed to learn this from his... When we're dead, it's all over. We don't ask those questions. So my question really is, how do we look at other people's suffering? People that we love, people that we know, Jews that we hear about, people in the world that we hear. How do we deal with other people's suffering? So here Judaism comes along and says something a little different. When it comes to my suffering and pain in life, the question I'm supposed to ask is, what's the message to me? What's God trying to get me to understand to make my life deeper and better? When I see other people suffering in life, I am not supposed to ask the question, what's God telling them? I'm not supposed to figure out, well, why did God make him homeless? Why did God give him this tragedy? Why did God make him lose his job? Because it's none of my business. It's none of my business. That's between them and God. They have some purpose in life. They have something they're supposed to go through. God wants them to get something out of it. That's between them and God. It's none of my business. Oh, but it's my neighbor, and it bothers me that my neighbor lost his job. It's my wife, and it bothers me that my wife is sick right now. I do have to ask a question. But the question is not, what's the message to them? The question is, what's the message to me? It's not a coincidence that it's my wife who's going through this illness. It's not a coincidence that it's my neighbor who lost his job. I'm part of his life somehow. If God is all-powerful, part of being all-powerful is that God can orchestrate the world in a way that he does. Orchestrate the world in a way where everybody is affected by everybody else the way they're supposed to be affected.